Hey, you are along for the ride with the Mad Dog and Cole, the surfing Swede, Farrell.
We are the DeLorean of podcasts, no guarantees.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm.
Man, epic way to start lap 109 with those inspiring words from the incredible Mr. Evil Knievel, flying through the air, living in the sunlight, and enjoying life.
Yeah, and the reason that we're able to enjoy life and live in the sunlight and do what we do here at Mad Dog's After Show is that we have the first responders who always have our back, and of course,
Yep.
the brave men and women of our military who allow any of this to happen to begin with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Huge shout out to them. And of course, our heartfelt shout out to all of our U.S. service people around the world, our veterans, and the families of those that gave all our service people, KIA, MIA. Thank you and great respect. While we're thanking people, man, thank you to our great partners and sponsors. Assault UTV, Assault Industries for all your off road accessory needs from tools to apparel, everything in between. Find them at Assault Industries, assaultind.com, or on Instagram at Assault UTV. Of course, Kicker Performance Audio, you can find them online, kicker.com, on Instagram at Kicker Audio, on Facebook, Kicker every other Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Central. Their live TV show, Kicker Unmasked Live, run by J Dub, Ern, and the crew. Shout out on their Facebook and their YouTube. Hit them up for all your premium 12-volt audio needs. Kicker.com. Of course, Bomber Eyewear, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear. Yeah, that's right, they float. And they have over 40 styles of frames. I don't even know the lens combinations, but you can hit their website up, bombereyewear.com, or find them on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Check out everything they have, including their newest release, especially for Charlie Brown heads. That's right, big cranium people. They have a new release. Go check it out. BomberEyewear.com. Of course, the Premix podcast, our dude Cole, sharing his passion for all things desert racing through the lens of a camera, and out there and available for your MC and announcer needs. Get that beautiful voice you hear every week on here out there to your event. Slide into his DMs on Instagram at the Premix Podcast. That's the at symbol ThePremixPodcast. Thanks for wearing the shirt today, bro.
It's my favorite shirt.
I love it.
I just wish I had 40 of them. Would never have to
Yeah.
do laundry again.
Awesome. Of course, you know, speaking of all things great, how about Shutter and Whirl and the great things that she's doing for us, turning all of our video mayhem into the beautiful video masterpieces you see on our YouTube channel at Mad Dog's After Show. Also handling all of our final audio production. That's Shutter and Whirl. You can find her on Instagram at Shutter and Whirl. Click on the link in her bio for the website for all your still photography needs or video needs from pre-production through post-production. Shutter and Whirl has you handled. Of course, Hey Geeks Marketing, handling all of our social media templates, our logo work, some of our artwork, does a great job, and our website too. That's right. Hey Geeks handles everything you need from websites to social media. Find her at heykeeks.com or on Instagram at heykeeksmarketing. Man, oh man, I've been excited about this one for a long time. My good buddy, Oklahoma's own Cody Elkins, freestyle extraordinaire master. What's up, buddy?
Oh man, just living the dream, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for jumping on. We've been trying to put this together for a while, and uh, man, I'm glad we were able to.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
the For those of you who don't or aren't familiar with Cody Elkins, I guarantee you have seen his one of his videos for sure, and we'll get to it. But it was if anybody has seen the video of the absolute insaniac backflipping over a Red Bull biplane, well, I think it was a Red Bull biplane,
Not
uh,
Red Bull, but yeah, it was
a
a
biplane,
modified pits. Skip
yeah,
Stewart's modified pits.
backflipping a motorcycle over an airplane. That was Cody.
Yeah,
So I know there's still videos like that pop up in my reels. I think I always send them to you. I'm like, hey, they forgot to mention you.
yeah. Since then there's been a few guys that's kind of duplicated what we've done, and there's a really good team out of Australia that does it. There's a team out of Canada that's doing it now. Skip and I, we still meet up a few times a year at different air shows. We've got a couple scheduled for this year that I'm super excited about. We're going to do the first time ever backflipping the quad over the airplane.
Oh my, what,
Yeah, that's going to happen this year.
dude? We've talked about, you and I have talked about this in the past, especially at Doomfest, how much the air affects a quad so much more than a bike. How, like, man, that's going to be gnarly.
Yeah, it affects it in a different way. So like where a bike, it's like riding a board. When you jump, a tailwind you don't really notice. It might push you a little deep. A headwind, you kind of notice it catches your front fender a little bit. It might slow you down a little bit. Um, those aren't as affected, on a bike. Where on
Right.
a quad, those are very effective. Where on a quad you got a headwind, it's like hitting the brakes in the air. It just
Yeah.
stalls you out. Or opposite with the tailwind, it'll actually help push you pretty far. And then when it comes to crosswind, it's like almost the opposite. So on a bike, it tends to grab the wheels, the spokes and everything.
Yeah.
It tends to grab the wheels and start tucking things. So if you're above the bars, or if you're only hanging on with one hand or not hanging on at all, it really starts to articulate the bike in an uncomfortable way. Where on the quad, since the quad doesn't have as much surface area this way, and it's more here and this, and it's got more weight, it actually doesn't tilt or cork the quad out in a way. It'll actually just move the quad straight sideways, but not as aggressively as it does on a bike. So they both kind of have a give and take when it comes to the wind.
Yeah, well, and you've got so much seat time on both. It's, for a lot of guys, I don't imagine getting off a bike and getting on a quad is just natural, or vice versa. And I've seen you do it, I think in the same performance one time.
Yeah, quite often actually.
Yeah.
'Cause, it's funny. They're like, "Oh, I get two for the price of one, so let's have you ride both." And
Yeah.
yeah, so I've literally, been in the same show with both machines, and some of the promoters and stuff even challenged me to go straight from backflip to switch machines straight to backflip into the other machine,
Wow.
and with no setup or warm up jump. And those are always, the ones that they get your adrenaline going a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. Now, do you still get that though? I mean, how long have you been doing freestyle?
So I just this month actually is my started my 23rd year or 24th year. So 23 years I've been doing
Wow.
freestyle motocross. Um, and it's been a dream come true ever since. I'm still living that dream, and still, doing, 40 plus shows a year all over the world. And it's been an amazing ride, not only getting to ride and all that stuff. But man, just getting to see the world in so many
Yeah.
different places and meet so many cool people. I mean, this industry's really opened up, my friend base to people not only, in the industry, but outside of the industry and across the world. It's brought some incredible people in my life. So it's, uh, it's beyond a dream come true. Like when I was young, wishing I could be a professional motocross racer and, really training for racing, I never could have imagined that my life ended up this way.
Yeah, that's rad. 23 years, dude. That's like an incredible career, and you're not done. You're only as old as you feel. As long as you keep limber, keep working out, and I would guess after 23 years, you have some muscle memory where there's certain tricks that are just like you don't even think about it. You just
Yeah.
pop it.
Yeah, they're kind of just second nature. And those are the tricks I like doing the most, because one, I do them well enough that they're the extension on them is really good. So the crowd gets really wowed by those tricks. Versus me trying to do a trick I'm not as comfortable with and maybe not getting full extension on. So I really try and stick to the tricks that I know and know well that I've kind of learned over the years that kind of wow the crowd or get a better reaction out of the crowd more than others. I'm definitely not trying to go compete at some of the newer competitions that's out there, or try
Yeah.
and win any X Games medals or anything, due to my age. Because honestly, the sport's kind of lost its risk versus reward factor as far as that
Right.
goes. The paychecks just aren't there to support the risk that it's involved, to elevate to the next level. Some of those guys that, the like the first thing that comes to mind is that body varial backflip that he did in X Games.
Yeah.
That's something I would never try. I'm like, yeah, I'm too old for that one, and I'm fine with that. But no, like you said, as long as you stay in shape, right on the other side of this wall is my gym, and my wife and I, we work out every day that we're home, and we really try and take care of our bodies. And I train martial arts 3 nights a week. I'll actually be going straight from this to class tonight, and that really helps me with my flexibility. And then I love training that anyway. And so between those things, and honestly, my good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ keeping me safe year after year after
Yep.
year, and helping my body bounce back from the small injuries that I have had. I've been very, very lucky to ride this long and to be able to keep going.
Yeah, for sure. Big blessing without a doubt. And it's and you're good for the sport, you know. You really are. I mean, we've had Haslam and we've had Cowboy on, and you guys are good people, right? You've kind of guys like you have changed a lot of the stereotype of freestyle, and it's really, I think, been good for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I really do. Uh, you know, us as Christians, we always try to be good. We're all sinners. We all make mistakes. There was definitely times in my life I was living as a total hypocrite and not being, a very good Christian. And and then other times where God, definitely called me closer to Him, and kind of showed me the error of my ways for sure. But no, I agree. In the early stages of freestyle, man, I felt like I needed a mop and bucket everywhere I went, because I was going around behind freestyle teams and pretty much cleaning up messes, man. Like,
Yeah.
promoters would be like, listen, you know, please don't trash this hotel room too bad. Like they automatically expected I was going to trash the hotel room or do something crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, no, dude, you're not going to have any issues. Like, it's not a big deal. And they're like, well, the last guys, we went through 4 hotels and we're only down to a couple more. So if you could just not trash this one too bad. And I'm like, was this really okay? I'm like, no, I'm not going to hurt anything in the hotel. Like you'll get your deposit back, I promise. And then, they're like, well, the last guys, we had to bail them out of jail 3 times over the weekend just to get them to the show. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm like,
Yeah.
what kind of people are you guys riding with? And then I actually got stuck on a tour where I got kind of firsthand experience of, what some of the guys were like. And Man, it was wild. It didn't last long for me because it wasn't the place for me. But
Yeah.
man, I'll never forget. I was 20 years old and I was stuck in traffic. And at that time, I traveled a little bit from racing, but nothing like freestyle was having me travel. And I was on this team that's not around anymore, and uh, riding with a couple riders that aren't around anymore. And man, it was crazy. I was young and straight edge. And they were just like, okay, you're gonna drive everywhere. And I'm like, all right. I was driving this dually with a 20,000-pound landing ramp behind it and bikes in the back of the truck, all stickers down the side, and these two riders just pulled out some drugs and started snorting them on the console while I was stuck in traffic. And I was
Wow.
like, what is happening? Like, why? It was not the scene for me for sure. But
Right.
those early days had me question if I had made the right choices in life.
I could see that. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the early days, like where did it start? Like, I mean, one, how did the freestyle start? But where did the motorsports start for you?
Man, my motorsports started through my dad. My dad was the kid that always wanted a motorcycle but could never have one. And then kind of bought his own bike and all that kind of stuff. And then when I was younger, like 4 years old, they got us three-wheelers, and then we got some four-wheelers, and some guys talked my parents into let me race. And I got to go race my quad, and I enjoyed it. And then that was right whenever the first like oil field crash kind of happened back then. And then racing stopped, like riding
Right.
stopped, everything just kind of stopped. And didn't really ride again except for a little bit of, bicycles and stuff for about 6 years there. And then
Wow.
we had some four-wheelers, and we went to a shop, and these guys talked my dad into letting me race the four-wheeler again. I was age 11, and and I raced this four-wheeler, and I was on a big quad, so I wasn't allowed to ride with the little kids because I had such a big quad, but I had to ride with the adults even though I was only 11.
Oof.
And I did pretty good, but I could clearly see there was only two classes of quads, minis and bigs, but
Right.
there was all these classes of bikes, and there were so many more bikes, and I was like, I want a bike. I want a bike. And no lie, that year I took back every Christmas present, every birthday present. I worked my tail off, and I got a bike at the end of age 11. Age 12, I started riding. Rode it 3 races and broke my arm. Got a plate and some screws in, and was out for a couple years due to surgeries. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. And they're like, are you sure you want to do this? And this is all I wanted to do. And so I spent that 2 years just kind of tinkering with my bike, learning how to work on them, and still trying to ride bicycles and do the stuff I wasn't supposed to do because of my arm. And then pretty much age 14, when I got cleared to ride, that like we tackled it head on, racing, and raced for. I had a lot of injuries, so I always tell people to start their kids young, because I didn't. Right, I kind of did, but then got out of it for a long time. And
Right.
I feel like kids that are young and go into it having fun, if they crash, their bikes are probably pretty small, close to the ground. They're going slow, and it gives the child a chance to develop the balance, the braking, the throttle control, pretty much all the bike skills that they need to survive. I jumped in, at age technically 12, then 14, and bikes, the 80s are fast, and they'll do 120-foot jumps. They'll do,
Oh yeah.
they got really high speeds, and I wasn't scared of anything. So I was the guy that would try any jump, even though I wasn't fast enough to get through the corner to get over the jump. I was trying to jump, and I didn't have that fear. And so I went through a lot of broken bones, like a lot of broken bones.
Wow.
And then, so from age 14 to all the way up to like 19, was racing was everything, you know, and there was times I was out because of injuries or whatever, but racing was everything. And, you know, my parents made a lot of sacrifices to make that happen. And because of that, I got all the bike skill I needed to win or to switch into freestyle once I made that decision. And that's how, you know, when freestyle came out, I was automatically drawn to it, attracted to it. Like I wanted to enter the jump off contest at some of the arena cross races, and my dad was like, "No, no, let's not do that." And there was a couple times he didn't, and then he kind of realized I was gonna do tricks whether I was in the jump off contest or not. So he might as well just, you know, loosen the reins and let me go, and he did. And, man, I loved it. Like I jumped at some of Todd Hammock's arena cross races when I was, you know, racing for Todd before I got into freestyle. And then in 2002, I went and watched the dirt IFMA at the Lazy E, and that was the first time I'd seen anybody jump a metal ramp. And man, my mind was blown. You know, Cowboy Kenny was there, and
Right.
you know, Drake McElroy, and you know, all these guys that I just was like, oh, this is amazing. And I knew Kenny from racing. You know, we were friends, you know, from before, you know, he switched to freestyle. And I was like, I want to do this. I even told my friends, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be on this tour next year. And they all laughed at me. Um, I was such a fan of the sport. Uh, I gave my friend my disposable camera because we didn't have, you know, camera phones back then.
Right.
I gave my friend my disposable camera. I was like, dude, when I give you the thumbs up, take the picture. He's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, just when I give you the thumbs up, take the picture. I jumped over the railing after the event, ran out onto the floor, jumped in the hot seat at the IFMA and gave him the thumbs up. He snaps a picture, and I'll never forget Kelly Ash and a couple other of the workers for the IFMA chased me out of there. And that was in January or February of 2002. And I got invited to hit my first metal ramp in March of 2002, which was exactly 3 years ago this month. I
Wow.
went and hit the metal ramp. And by this point, I already had several tricks from some of the dirt jumps I was doing. And the guy that owned the metal ramps was like, wow, you got quite a few tricks. He's like, if you would make your bike into a freestyle bike, you could probably do pretty good at this. I was like, can I come back tomorrow? He's like, yeah. So that night I went home, packed my bike all up, like cut it all up, made me a seat and seat grabs. And next day went back and I learned Superman seat grabs. I learned Indian airs, and I started working on one-handed grabs and double grabs. And, you know, that was like the most exciting day for me. And my dad was like, what are you doing to this brand new race bike? Like,
Right.
don't do this. And I was like, no, I'm done racing. I'm gonna give this a shot. And because I was in that tweener, like I just graduated high school, I had an oil field job, I had went to my freshman orientation for college, and so I had these like three forks. Which way am I gonna go? You know,
Yeah.
am I gonna enter the workforce? Am I gonna try and pursue racing and see what my professional career could go there? You know, by this point, you know, I'm 20 years old now, and or do I, you know, stay in the oil field? Do I go to college? What am I going to do? And something was just telling me, give freestyle a year and just see what happens. You know, like go out there, chase some shows, try and get your name out there, see what you can do in a year with it. And so I quit my oil field job. I pretty much pulled out of school and said, you know, I'm gonna give this a shot and see what I can do with it. And I rode lots of shows that year. By the end of uh let's see, August, I did a show for Todd, and then the guys that he brought out to ride with it, they needed a rider in Oklahoma City at the Monster Jam. Went and rode there. That was my first Monster Jam in October. And back then Monster Jams were a pretty legit competition for freestylers.
Yeah.
And I ended up beating everybody at that one and doing pretty good. And then Monster Jam owned the IFMA as well. And like the next week, I got a call from the IFMA, and they're like, "I heard you did pretty good at Monster Jam. Would you like to come try out for the IFMA?" And I said, "Yeah." So November, I rode my first event at Kemper Arena in Kansas City, and to try out, and they loved me in the practice. I got to ride the event at Kemper Arena, And then January, they put me on the tour the whole next year. So I made my goal, and I was on that tour the whole next year.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was 23 years ago, and I've never looked back. And this has pretty much been my only job, since, except for little jobs I would take on here or there, and then until COVID, of course.
Right. That's man, it's incredible to think, that's how it all started. It's funny because like like I said, you and Kenny almost mirror that passion, right? I mean, that's how he started. He just fell in love with it and was like, I just want to jump dirt bikes, right? This
That's
is
all we
cool.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
Even at races, man, Kenny and I, how we became friends was riding bicycles together. Because he was a professional racer way before I even started racing. And so me being so late to the game, I'm coming up through the amateur ranks. But no lie, it was like every track we were at, some of us would go build some dirt jumps for the BMX bikes. And I'd always bump into Kenny there. And it was me and Kenny we would be going out and trying the biggest jumps on our bicycles or doing the biggest tricks on our bicycles at the motocross track, and that was always like what the other dads didn't want you doing, right? Don't be
Right.
doing that kind of stuff while we're at a track. Don't get hurt riding your bicycle. But that's what Keeney and I had so much fun doing. And we had a lot of fun, man. I really miss those days, those early days of motocross and the purity of just loving to ride, whether it was on a bicycle or it was on a motorcycle. It was like we had such a love for just jumping and riding that, man, we had some of the most fun together back then.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting that you Oklahoma boys kind of share that a little bit of time difference, but that same entry into freestyle, if you will. I thought that was pretty cool. While we're actually, I wanted to bring this up during the show at some point, but your lead up with Kenny was perfect. Kenny just had a massive setback to his program where he had a electrical malfunction in his trailer and had a big fire, lost a bunch of stuff. So all of our listeners, if you go to Kenny's Instagram, it's at Cowboy Kenny 690, I believe it is. Find the picture of the trailer on fire. There's a link there that you can go help him out. And he's got a unique approach to helping him out and benefiting yourself at the same time. Become a part of his Steel Rodeo forever. I want to get that shout out there for him. Sorry, I didn't want to steal your
No,
spot
it's
there, but
100% a great thing because, like you said, the weirdest, craziest little freak accident happens, and he's driving down the road. Next thing you know, he looks back and his trailer's on fire.
yeah,
And it
frightening.
destroyed, yeah, he just destroyed everything. So he lost his whole entire setup. He actually took my setup this last weekend to an event, because we're all friends. We're all trying to help each other out. And yeah, he took my setup this last weekend. But no, his new approach is going to be awesome because not only is he's going to come back bigger and better than ever. He's got a brand new bag being built, brand new ramp, everything going to be set up. And then, like you said, he's selling spots on the bag. So you can actually go and have your spot on the bag. I told him I wanted a spot on the bear. I'll probably get a little one. But, you can have your name or your company, all those companies out there looking for exposure. Kenny does a lot of really cool shows a year in front of a lot of people. And, man, your company or your name is going to be printed right there on the airbag for everybody to see. I think that's a great approach to bounce back from an incident that insurance is not going to help with at all.
Yeah, and really, that's for all of us that tow enclosed trailers or big trailers are all around the country. That's our worst fear.
Oh, yeah.
Really, it's just looking in the mirror and seeing smoke.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, especially for like us. I mean, that's our livelihood we're pulling behind
Right.
it, and luckily Kenny's got enough connections that for his events he's had that we've been able to like get ramps from here or there to support him and like kind of get him through shows. But there's going to come a time where he's got to have his own setup, as far as events goes, because there's times where there'll be 20 events in one weekend and there won't be a ramp available.
Right.
So,
And to that point, I wanted to say, on behalf of him, I know he already thanked you, but thank you, because he made a point that you really hooked him up for his show. I think it was last weekend or something. So, you
oh
know,
man, Kenny's like an old brother to me, man. Like, and, anything him or I could do to help each other out, we've always tried to do it for sure. And like I said, I'll be getting one of those spots on the back of that thing. You'll see my little name down there on the bottom side. But and I've been trying to share that post, with some of my sponsors and some people I know that might be looking for that exposure as well, because I think that's just a great opportunity for a lot of companies.
yeah, for sure. And, hopefully everything will work out, and I know it will. He's got great support from you and all of us. So, uh, yeah. So, on that, I don't want Kenny already had his episode, but I do want to cover. I had the honor of one year, and I can't remember which year it was, but at Lazy E during Arena Cross, you and Kenny rode together in the
Mhm.
freestyle show. Man, I'm standing there and I'm like, two of the greatest, like, longest running icons in freestyle are right here. And then I pitched a crazy idea. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys stand in the back of the Kicker General and throw T-shirts in the crowd? And I got to drive. I got to chauffeur you guys in a side by side I built all the way around the racetrack on the outside. It was really cool. That was definitely a highlight for me, and I thank you and Kenny, because that was super rad.
It was
I
fun.
still tell people about that.
Oh man, it was super fun. And like you said, anytime I get to ride an event with Kenny, dude, I have so much fun just because uh we do a lot of the opposite tricks. Like you said, we're very similar in how we came up and got into the sport. But riding styles, we actually have a pretty different riding
Yeah.
styles. And I'm a bar trick guy. I like really jumping over the bars, and uh even our whips are a little bit different. So we have a very different riding style with him jumping to the back of the bike. He's big into rock solids and doing grab tricks. So I think when Kenny and I do get to ride together, I think the crowd it's a really good treat for the crowd, because they get a really good spectrum of both sides of the bike, two different styles of riding. And then, like you said, he's a great role model as well. Someone who's, you know, a good guy off the bike, and so
Yeah.
that always makes my weekend way more fun to when I'm riding with someone like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's I mean, you probably don't want to look at yourself as one of the senior statesmen, if you will, of freestyle, but you are. I mean, you came in just after the inception. You've been there this whole time. Um, and there's more riders than I can count on both hands that really, I feel like, owe you a lot, because you've taken a lot of guys under your wing and worked with them. And talk about that, like developing these new riders. Like, I know a lot of guys, a lot of my good friends in the industry that basically, like, maybe they were doing tricks, but they went to Cody's place and really fine tuned,
That's something Kenny did a lot of too. I feel like, maybe it's just the Oklahoma in us. Our door has always been open to anybody who wanted to come ride, come hang out. I had that place in Weatherford for so long, and it was right there off of I-40. And then I'd have just random people that happen to have dirt bikes and stop by and want to ride the track or try and hit the ramp, or guys that would hit me up on Facebook or whatever. And And, Kenny had a much bigger and better facility than I had because he eventually built a foam pit and helped guys, learning the flip and everything like that. He even helped me when it come time to start flipping the quad because I was like, hey, yeah, I think I'm just going to pull it to dirt. And he's like, man, why don't you go ahead and come up and flip it into my pit, so you're safe. And I was like, all right, I'll come up. And, uh, so he's always been awesome as far as, helping others. And I love it, man. Like, honestly, I think teaching is kind of like one of my second loves, I guess. I help teach the martial arts class here in town because I've kind of worked my way up through the ranks and belts to get high enough that I can help others. And I love it. Like helping others reach their goals, whatever it is. I think that's what we're supposed to do, is help build each other up. And I've had some of the best friends ride with me when we had that spot in Weatherford, Kyle Lovelace and Slade Waltman and, just all these guys that we used to go out there and we would ride every day for hours on end, as long as the wind wasn't blowing, we were out there. And man, we had so much fun and we really pushed each other into different levels. And I miss a lot of those guys. I wish some of them were still doing freestyle. I wish some of them were, still riding and stuff with me. But in the early days of freestyle, there was nothing better than to, get a bunch of guys out there, go out there, and whether we had to push the ramp up for new guys and inch it back or whatever we did, it was all about just for the love of riding and having fun and building each other up. It was really, really good times.
Yeah, that's awesome. And really, it's fantastic for the newer guys um because they can touch on your experience uh and your background and things what to and what not to do even
Yeah.
in the industry, whether they listen or not is another thing. But
True. True.
yeah, 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 there's some out there, I'm sure, but it's crazy. Do you find when you're riding like with some of the younger guys, let's say, um, do you do you do you still get that kind of like spurred on competition feeling?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Like especially, some of the monster truck shows now they still have that like best trick competition and things
Yeah,
like that. And we'll get to rallying each other up a little bit and like which trick you gonna do, and we'll see who's gonna do a better one or so that part of it's really fun. And then other times, it's funny, I definitely feel my age sometimes when I'm riding with some of the other younger guys because the lifestyle differences, like
oh yeah, yeah,
they're young and single and they want to go out all the time and I'm just like I just want to go to bed. Like I want to get home to my wife or whatever, and so I'm always excited to make that overnight drive home to get home and they're like, looking for what excitement thing there is to do around here. I'm like, well, I've been to
right.
the city 9 times. I've seen that thing 20 times. I don't need to go over there again. It's like, it's fun. But the only time I do get that like young kid exploratory self is when we do like a new country or a new city overseas. That's when I'm like, all right, let's go see some sights. Let's go do this or go do that. But these, more local shows, I'm typically, just trying to get in and get out and get home.
Right. I understand that. Some of the young guys last year in at Gallup Todd's Gallup Monster Trucks, um, I had Backside Billy was riding, and if he's listening, shout out. I won't say your real name, so we won't bust you, but he right first off, first practice hit, there he goes bouncing across the ground. I'm like, dude, like, what in the heck are you doing? You're giving me a heart attack here, bro. And he was like, yeah, I think we're a little short, They remeasured and they had measured a little bit short to begin with. So I'm like, speaking of the young guys and just bouncing back, if I'd have bounced across the dirt off the ramp, I I'd have been a little slower to get up. I'm not gonna lie, but but yeah,
No.
no, it's crazy. So internationally, um, obviously, Canada, I'm sure, U.S., Mexico, I know. How many foreign countries have you performed in?
It's funny. I have not actually set and counted, but I mean, I've done China, Singapore, Russia, been out all the way out in Newfoundland. I've been to Germany, France, Spain, Australia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, uh, Zambia. I mean, I don't.
Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's so many now that it's hard to keep track of. But man, it's been it's been fun. But you know what's crazy is the world's actually a lot smaller than people think. It's pretty nuts how small it is, and how much people like remember you. Like I bumped into somebody I went to school with in overseas, and
Wow.
then I bumped into someone that I met on a radio show in Louisiana. I bumped into them in Singapore. I mean, it's
Wow.
been the craziest thing. Like when you start traveling around and you travel as much as we do, and we bump into people, you start realizing how small the world really is. But man, it's such a beautiful place. Like the whole world. And my favorite thing about traveling is definitely like eating. Like I love food. Like you anybody
Yeah,
that's been out with me or hangs out with me, they know that I love to eat.
I
and
can attest to that.
and dude, when you go travel and you get to try the different cuisines and try and see the different cultures and stuff, man, that's the cool part about seeing the other places around the world for sure. But
Yeah,
another thing though, when you start traveling, you go all over the world, you realize how good we got it here.
yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah. It- I was gonna say you left out all of South America.
Yeah. Well, Zambia's down there. It's kind of like
Oh
mid
yeah, there
Africa.
you go.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of like mid Africa, but yeah, there's so many places. Israel is a place that will always stand out. I definitely left out all of South America. We've been to
yeah,
Brazil and all those places down there, and
Costa
uh,
Rica.
yeah, man, it's been such a crazy wild 25 or 23 years.
Yeah.
When you really sit back and look at it. One of my favorite things to collect from my career is my credentials.
Ah,
Because typically the credentials will tell you not only like the event date, but location and what kind of event it was. And so I have a whole thing upstairs in my shop here where it's on the handrail where I've draped these lanyards over and it's just credentials. And it's funny because I've lost a bunch of them and stuff, but I've tried to hang on to as many as I can. And it's really cool to pick them up, go back and look and be like, oh, this one was from, this one certain car show, or this one was from a concert where I got to ride right in front of these bands. And I basically opened up for these bands, and, or I got to meet these people. And, this one was from this country, this one was from that country. And, that's been one of my favorite collections I've collected over the years for sure, is like being able to try and remember all the experiences, because to be honest, man, we probably forget more good times than most people get to have. And it's
yeah.
it's 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 truly incredible, the life that God's blessed me with, to be able to do this for so long and go all the places I've gotten to go.
Yeah, I haven't been all over the world, but I feel exactly the same way. I've been uh, all over the U.S. and Canada, and I these behind me in the studio here, um, basically all car passes and whatever side by side passes, golf cart passes, all access from all these events, and to your credit, people may say, oh, well, credentials, what, I have just over to my left on the other side of my workbench. Yeah, my studio has a workbench, and yeah, it's a small space.
There's my workbench right there.
Yeah, I have a 6-peg hat rack that is completely draped with credentials. So I get it. It's one of those things for sure. And it's we're talking about all this around the world stuff. I don't know how long ago it was, but folks, I get this random text from Elkins one day of a video, and I can't even remember where I was. I remember getting it. It seems like it'll come to me, but I get this video, and I know he's riding with Haslam in Costa Rica. I think it was Costa Rica, and I open the video, and it's Haslam. The bike shut off midair in like a backflip, and here's Haslam bailing off the bike and bouncing down the airbag out onto the floor. And I'm like, oh my God, like, is he okay? What's up? Not another word, right? And I'm like, finally, you answered me later that day. But in the meantime, I'm like sending stuff to Hazel. Hey, are you okay? And I finally got the whole story on that. But holy cow, you about gave me a heart attack that day. And I'll never forget it because I appreciate it. I was helping Haslam a lot at that time with the business side of things. But man, I about swallowed my tongue when I saw it the first time, and I'm like, whoa, did I just see that? And I
Yeah.
replayed it, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And
Yeah, you
yeah,
should see my view because I was sitting on the dirt pod where he jumped like, 15 feet from my face. So I got to see it like super close. And yeah, he just like slipped out doing a knack, and yeah, he just flailed off. I believe it was in Puerto Rico.
oh, Puerto
And
Rico, yeah.
and
It
yeah,
was a
man.
borrowed bike.
We all had some different bikes down there, and it was made it a little hairy. That's one thing that when you travel overseas and stuff, you tend to end up riding some crazy things. Some people won't, and I've kind of been one of those guys that they're like, oh, I need you to go ride a Honda, or I need you to ride a KTM, or I need you to ride this or ride that. And I've kind of always been like, all right, whatever it is, I'll go ride it, and, but yeah, sometimes you get a bike that's not quite right. And sometimes, I mean, it's dangerous. It can cost you. It almost cost me in Saudi Arabia. Um, I was riding a bike that was older and it had some hours on it, and I gave it a good tug, and I just got like a dead pull. Didn't get the grunt off the ramp, and under rotated a flip and caught a knuckle.
Oh,
Bike just slapped down, knocked me out. Bike hit me in the back of the head and tumbled
oof.
down. Broke my humerus, and it was a rough one for sure. But that's one of those things. Like when you go overseas and you're borrowing bikes, you never know what you're really going to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. And that's a whole nother aspect that nobody really understands or sees or gets or even knows about is,
Mm.
you could end up with a bike that hasn't had an oil change in, you know, 3 years and been beat through the Puerto Rican bush or whatever, it's
Yep.
yeah. And to you guys' credit, you still go out there and do the best you can, try and huck it. And that's beyond me. I am maybe I'm a prima donna, but I don't know that I could do it even if I was skilled enough to do stunts. So
Yeah, it takes a certain part of your brain you got to just kind of like turn off and say, okay, this is risky, this isn't fun, or this isn't good. It's like you just got to shut all that off, and like people always ask if we're scared, and I'm always 100% honest with them. I'm like, yeah, I'll be honest with you. What we do is scary, and I'm always scared, but I always try to use that fear more as a focus factor, you know, like I use the fear as a way to like help me hyper focus on what it is I need to do and how I need to do it. And where it got me in um, Saudi Arabia actually was it was like day 6 or 7 of a 12-day show,
Oh,
and you know, you get a little bit too comfortable on those sometimes, and you know, day 6 or day 7 of a 12-day show, and you know, you go into it and you're like, oh, I've got this, and all it takes is one little bit of a not quite enough, and you get a dead pool, and also it under rotates, you know.
yeah.
And it could have been like if you see the video, I've still never released that video because it's a pretty brutal crash, and but man, when you watch the video, like you realize like how lucky like I was, because when I slapped down and the bike goes from a back flip to a front flip, and it literally comes, and it as soon as my head hits the ground and bounces up, the bike hammers it back down on the ground, and the back wheel hits right back here.
Wow.
And I had a full carbon fiber helmet, you know, one of the top of the line helmets at that time. You know, and it probably saved my life, and but it still bruised my head through my helmet,
Whew.
and you know, of course, knocked me out. But you know, all it needed to be was, you know, this much lower. You
Yeah. Right.
know, because there was nothing from here down. I'm wearing just a jersey. You know, there's no
Yeah.
real true protection. You know, it could have been just a, you know, a few inches lower, and it would have, you know, got me right in the neck at full speed, and you know, it could have been really really bad. So
Yeah. Yeah. I I understand that, and you know, I still don't understand. There's a lot of you guys that I mean, I get it inhibits your motion, but like ballistic jackets, neck, you know, Lead or something similar, uh, man, you know, they could make all the difference in the world, but then for freestyle guys, they could make all the difference in the world negatively because you're you need often need that extra little bit of motion, you know.
mhm. Yeah, it's a really tough thing, like, you know, because there are a lot, and I do mean a lot of really awesome safety gear out there. There really is.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, when it comes to racing and stuff, I really feel like there are some really good protection out there that uh, doesn't quite work for freestyle. Like for me, being a bar trick guy, like knee braces. You know,
Yeah.
I have not found a knee brace that I can get through the bars with my knees that works with my knees. I'd love to wear a knee brace, but then also there's a give and take. You know, I've fallen from 45 feet without the bike where I flailed away, you know, and landed.
Yeah.
And I've been very blessed. I've never had like a knee issue.
Wow.
The closest thing I've ever had was I hit something that stopped the bike dead stop, and I went over, and my knee hit the handlebars, and so it like hyperextended my knee around the handlebar backwards, and it kind of tore my PCL. But the PCL is like one of the only things that will actually heal back on its own. And that's like the most I've had when it comes to like knee injuries, right? But I know for a fact, like if I would have been wearing some knee braces during some of my crashes that I had, my knees would not have been able to flex as much as they needed to flex. And then what
Right.
happens is that's going to put the pressure here up on your thigh, and it typically breaks your femur. So where I've been lucky and I haven't had knee injuries, I can't say, you know, who's to say I wouldn't have had femur injuries, you know,
Right.
because of those.
Sure.
So there's a giant give and take when it comes to those, you know. But I feel like if I was racing, I'd be wearing knee braces and, you know, hopefully not coming off of the bike where it would have
Right.
that issue. Um, you know, the Leats I think are amazing. Same thing, because you know, hopefully I'm not going to come off the bike to be trying to look through or look back and do a trick, you know, and I would want that protection. But I mean, there's so many good companies out there producing so many things, and it just really kind of depends on what kind of riding you're going to do, on which amount of protection you're going to use.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, though, like there's still no guarantees. You know, you can
Right.
never, you're not going to be able to wrap yourself in a giant bubble and protect yourself 100%. There's still going to be risk.
And it's like we've always said, you know, it's not if, it's when. Like, that's just the way it is. You're at some point, you know, you're going to come off and you're going to get bruised up or break your wrist, break your arm, you know, break your foot, something like that. I mean, I've been through all that myself, and I'm not even a freestyle guy. You know,
Right.
I don't feel like I took. I guess the risk is the wrong word for it, because you guys, especially you guys that have been at like yourself, you know, 23 years. Um, you don't last 23 years in freestyle going, I'm just going to huck it and see what happens. You know, it's
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, in the beginning days, man, that was me. You know, like I'll just
yeah,
send it. I'm just gonna go. I'll jump it. I mean, I've jumped some really dumb setups. Like, I mean, stuff that I should not have been doing it, and I got lucky. You know, I really think the Lord has been watching over and protecting me over my stupidity for many years. And but you know, I honestly also feel like that he's, you know, kind of made me wiser in my old age as well.
right.
You know, now I don't take like those really dumb risks, you know, because I've learned, for instance, like the Saudi Arabia crash, you know, to be honest, I didn't need to be doing the trick that I was doing anyway, you know, but I was trying to kind of push myself and beat the other guys and things like that.
Right.
And uh you know, that was a risk versus reward thing that was not smart in my thing. You know, to be honest, there was so many other events going on at that event at the same time we were performing that I think we only had 50 people in the crowd, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, because there was so many other things going. They had the giant car loop, they had a stunt show going on. They had drifting going on. They had, you know, Indy cars running. They had so many other things going on, and they were just cycling people from show to show to show to show to show. You know, that was a really not smart move on my part. That I, you know, those are mistakes I've learned from. You know, now I
Yeah.
don't do that. I'm like, okay, you know, just do what you know how to do it smooth, don't take any unnecessary risks, and you know, still wow the crowd, give them a good
Yeah.
show. But it's not worth risking your life over, you know, to do one thing that you think you might be able to do or you should do.
Right. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. And you know, um, it's really cool, I guess, that you've learned that, but it was a hard way to learn it for
No.
sure.
It was a really hard way to learn it, you know, and kind of a funny side story to that is um, they wouldn't see me in the hospital in Saudi. So we drove around, they drove me around the next day to three different hospitals, and they just wouldn't see me. You know, they wouldn't take me in.
Huh.
And but there was a like medical tent on site that did have a doctor, and he evaluated me. Uh, uh, no X-ray machines, nothing like that. Basically, I just went into him and I let him take my shoulder and
Ooh.
move it all over. Okay, because I was flying straight from Saudi Arabia to Singapore to ride another event, and I was
Wow.
like, um, you know, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. You know, it's hurt, but it's not that bad. And so this guy checks me out, and he's like, "Oh yeah, 2 days in a sling, he's fine." Okay, he says 2 days in a sling, I'm fine. And I did. I went straight to Saudi Arabia, and in Saudi it was a dirt landing, but it was really mellow, right? So a
Right.
steep landing, you're falling in, and you fall into it, and it's really smooth. When it's mellow, you fall in, and it's like more of an impact, right? So you
Right.
land really hard. And we had done Singapore before, but the first time we did it, they had completely different dirt, and it had like this oil in it. It made everything like super slick, like
Wow.
everything super slick. We couldn't even jump the takeoff because the oil out of the dirt made the takeoff so slick, you would just fall on the takeoff.
Wow.
So we ended up having to carpet the whole takeoff and our entire run up just to be able to jump on this dirt. So we go back and we're expecting that same crappy slick dirt.
Right.
And we go back and it wasn't. It was actually decent dirt, but everybody's heads were so like wrapped up in the year before's dirt that we were like, nobody wanted to jump it. So I was like, I'll jump it first. So I go out, I jump it, but when I landed and all that impact and everything came down, I knew I was like, I'm in trouble. I was like, my arm is hurt bad. So I literally hit the ramp 3 times in practice, and I was scared I wasn't going to be able to do any tricks. And so I actually gave my flip spot to Seth Beaton, and I moved me up to the front of the pack because if someone's going to do like a dead sailor or miss a trick, we kind of want them to be up front. That
Right.
way it builds, right? You
Sure.
start,
Yeah.
you want the show to get better. You don't want like the best guys up front and then your worst guys in the back. You want the show to build. So I moved me up front because I was really nervous about my shoulder and if I could do all my tricks. And that was the dumbest thing I ever did. Because when you flip, you actually come in and you land smoother. I would have rather flipped that whole weekend than jump it straight at all. And then come time for show, I was the only rider that didn't do a dead sailor. And I gave my flip spot up for nothing because I could have flipped and made myself smoother. But I was so scared I was going to be a guy in the flip spot doing a dead sailor before the flips. I knew I could flip, but if I was scared I was going to be doing a dead sailor before the flips, it would make it look bad. And man, I was so bummed because I just, took a giant pay cut and all that stuff. And then end up still being the only guy that didn't do a dead sailor. And then I found out how good the hospitals were in Singapore. Because we left the show, I was like, I'm hurt. There's something hurt. And I know they'll see me in Singapore. And I had really good international insurance. I was like, I'm going to see what this is about. So we took a bus back to the hotel. As soon as I got to the hotel, I got in what's called a Grab. And that's like their Uber over there.
Okay.
So I took a Grab to the hospital, took off my shirt, and then show them all the contusions and stuff I got all over me. And they're like, looked at me like I had 3 heads. They're like, what did you do? Was this a car wreck? I was like, no, I fell down. We're good. I didn't want to try and explain I was in Singapore or in Saudi Arabia and I took a bad crash. And so I was like, I think I need this x-rayed, maybe this, maybe that. They took like 9 x-rays of everything, right? Had me see a doctor. They're like, hey, your humerus is broke up here in your shoulder. We can't cast it. You need to be in a sling for about 4 to 6 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And they gave me my x-rays. They had me in and out of there so fast. It was the most amazing hospital experience I've ever seen, most professional I've ever seen. Wow. They had me in and out of there so fast. I took the Grab back to the hotel. Everybody that I bused to the hotel with barely had time to go upstairs, shower, come back downstairs, and was getting ready to walk out the door to go eat when I pulled up in my Grab, and I went to eat with everybody.
Wow.
That's how fast the hospital was there. And I took 9 x-rays and found out my arm was broken.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was quite the experience.
That's crazy. Well, man, that blows my mind. It just the fact that you rode with a broken humerus is even.
Well, I didn't know it was broke, but it just hurt.
It didn't change the fact it was broke. Well, you didn't know.
Well, hold on. It wasn't like broke in half where my arm was flopping.
Right.
It wasn't that kind of a break. It was like up at the top in the shoulder, and it was like a little chunk off the ball, that sits up in the socket. It was like a chunk off that ball was broke. Because when I hit like this on my shoulder, it rolled my shoulder up behind me and dislocated it. And when it dislocates it that way, it typically breaks this little part off that ball. So that's what it was. So my arm was still back in socket at this point and all the muscles intact. And so my strength and everything was there. So, really wasn't super spectacular. It was just really painful.
Yeah. Broke is broke.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess so.
That's gnarly, dude. Something I want to cover. I know we're getting on time here. Something I do want to cover though is you had talked about earlier your faith and your belief, and I find it encouraging and invigorating that you have found a way to work that into your freestyle life with, in essence, like mission trips with freestyle shows. Let's just hit on that a little bit. And this earlier this year, didn't you get refused to
Uh, yeah.
enter
Well, it was the end of
Egypt
last
or
year.
something? End of
Yeah. So
last year. Okay.
end of last year. So we've done the Count It Right Festival in Egypt. Team, when I say we as in Team Faith, because I love to ride for Team Faith. Team Faith has been doing the Count It Right Festival over in Egypt for a very long time. Terry Russell was like, I believe, the first rider that went over there for them to get it going off the ground. And then, Kevin Johnson went, and then Kevin brought me, and Kevin and I got to ride together. And then 2 years ago, not last year, but the year before, I got to go do it. And it's always an amazing trip. They bus in thousands of kids every day for 5 days straight, and these kids get to see everything from jugglers to ventriloquists to jump rope guys, basketball guys, power lifters, skateboarders, BMXers, freestyle motocross, just all these Christians from all these different backgrounds and all these different athletics and just talents. And you wouldn't believe the talents. We're talking rappers and singers, and just so many different things. And this camp is huge. It's outside of Wadi, and they put and there's a hotel, there's a swimming pool, there's a soccer stadium, another soccer field, a concrete skate park, 2 or 3 different ropes courses, a giant like zip line, and basketball courts, and all this, tennis courts, and all this stuff. It's really cool. And so they all day long they're busing kids in now, and we'll do 3 or 4 shows a day every day, and then they're just cycling them.
Yeah.
And each one of my shows was having, I would say, I don't know, man, it seemed like 1,000, 2,000 people there, at each one of my events. And it's so great because we would ride, and then we would share, and every time we would share, we'd share something completely different. It was just kind of spiritual led, whatever God wanted us to share at that time. And it was such an honor and thrill to be a part of. 2 weeks last year before we went, I got a call from the jump rope guy. And he told me that he had been denied access into Egypt. He said, once I arrived, they said, you can't come. And he was going over 2 weeks early as a trip with his friends and family, because he's been over there so many times. You get to know kind of everything in the area and the pyramids and everything. And so he was going to be kind of like a personal tour guide for his friends and family. Well, they all got right in, and he wasn't allowed to come.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, man, I think something's up. He calls me, he goes, I think something's up, because as soon as they scanned my passport, they knew, and I wasn't allowed in. And all they would tell me is I'm a threat to national security. He goes, I bet you he goes, I think they've got all of us flagged that way. I'm like, you think? And so we start calling over there, trying to like communicate with them. Hey, is this happening? Can we come? What's going on? And we had to submit our passports and everything. And they all gave us a thumbs up. Everything's good. You're allowed in the country. Please come. Please come. Okay. So we go. We weren't allowed in the country.
Oh, man.
And every single person that was on the previous year's performers list was banned.
Wow.
Now, I took over Alan Dixon, who's another Christian writer that's an amazing guy.
Yep.
Him and his wife, they got right in. The clown, Shaggy, he brought a new clown with him. The new guy got right in. Every new person we brought got right in. But even the evangelist that went over there, every performer or anybody that was on the list from that Count It Right festival from the year before was not allowed in. Now, when you're not allowed in, you got two options. One, turn around, fly out immediately if you can find a flight.
Wow.
Two, be detained until you can fly out immediately.
Oh,
So we were arrested and detained until we could fly out.
wow.
And, they treated us like criminals, man. It was kind of wild. Like, at first they were all super nice and got us to escort our bags back to the back and everything, because they're like, oh, we have a room for you and everything's fine. And it wasn't, man. We got back there. I was like, guys, I think they're going to put us in jail. And they're like, no. They said they got a room for us. I was like, guys, this isn't sheetrock anymore. This is painted concrete and steel doors. I was like, we're going to jail. And they're like, you think? And I'm like, I know it. We're about to lose all of our possessions here in just a minute. And sure enough, man, they took all of our phones, all of our stuff, our shoes. Guy jerked I had a drawstring on my jogger pants I was wearing. He jerked the string out of those things, and they shoved us in a cell and left us there until it was time to fly out.
Wow.
And yeah, so I was stuck in there for about 26 hours, not a terribly long time. I got very lucky and got my flight changed. And, it was crazy though. For 26 hours, they gave us like 4 pieces of flatbread and a little container of feta cheese, and that was it. But I was in there with a bunch of Christians, and obviously there was other people who had been arrested in this big cell with us. But it was pretty cool. We just played games the whole time, like, word games or whatever. We bet push-ups on who was going to fall asleep next or wake up next, or we ended up working out. I don't know, I'd say probably 2 hours of it. I was showing some of the guys some self-defense in there. We just made the best time we could of it. But it was much harder, I would say, for my wife though, because once I figured out what was happening, I called and I left her a message, and she gets this message. It's like, hey, I'm being arrested in Egypt. I'm not allowed to come in the country. Don't worry. I've got my flight changed. I'll be home Sunday. As soon as I can get in touch with you, I will, but I'm going to lose my phone. And then she had to sit with that message for 26 hours.
Ooh.
Actually longer than that, because, they escorted us right to the plane, and then we had to wait. And then when it was time to board, we were to board first. And then as we boarded, they handed our cell phones and our passports and everything back to us as we would get on. So as soon as I get on the plane, I'm trying to dial my wife before the flight takes off to let her know, hey, I'm on the flight, So it was like I said, it was about 28 hours for her, that she had to just kind of sit and wait. But it was probably a lot rougher on her than it was on us, because, we were just kind of trying to make the best of it. But, you see some of the crazy things that's happening in the world and stuff. And then, they could have easily made it into a thing, especially with who we had in office at that time, being very weak, and, our country not having much respect at that time. They could have made it a political mess and kept us and made it a lot worse. So we was very lucky. But, honestly, spreading my faith with motocross has been the best thing ever. Like, I would do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would go to Egypt again if they invited me and I could get cleared, of course.
Yeah.
I would go again just because, man, I've got fans that sent stuff back with Alan that was looking forward to seeing me there, and, that made stuff. They're like, oh, because of you, I follow Christ now. And, that's pretty amazing, because
Super cool.
in this world, none of the other stuff matters, truly, money, any kind of little fame I might have ever gained, or the Guinness World Record I hold, or anything like that. Like, none of that counts for anything. The only thing that counts is my name's in the book of life. And, when I leave here, I know exactly where I'm going. And that's because I asked Jesus to be in my heart and forgive me of my sins. And the more people, I don't want to be there alone. I want
Right.
to know people there. And the more people we can bring with us, the better. And I truly think that's like the most important thing, because people don't realize how much of a spiritual warfare goes on every single day.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like it's coming more and more to light, as far as like how evil can be, and
Yeah.
how it's in our face all the time. For a long time, I didn't even realize it. I was a Christian. I was raised a Christian, like, I believed in God, but the truth of it is, when you're a kid, man, you can get distracted by everything,
Right.
and anything. And I did. I never like did drugs or stole, or, wasn't really a big troublemaker or anything like that. But like, we're all sinners. We all have something that's going to grab a hold of us, and for me, one of the seven deadly sins was lust that grabbed a hold of me, and that had a hold of me ever since from a little kid, and I didn't even realize it, but it was one of those deals where you've got to really keep your eyes open, because I put this timeline together of like things that's happening to me when I was a little kid all the way through. And I realized, man, how much, they go after children. They try
Yeah.
to they try to attack children, with the
Yeah.
minds, imprinting lust into kids, with, even that whole old saying, sex sells, with advertisements or whatever. It really, I really feel like it does damage to kids, and it leads to really bad things such as pornography or whatever, infidelity in marriages, and things like that. And um, me personally, I think that's one of the biggest harmful things in our society right now is, the fact that that's so just out there for so many kids to see, and it steals their innocences way too fast.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, but that's always been the thing that I had to work on, because of that.
Good.
And I joined this men's ministry that kind of targets that thing, and walks through steps and stuff. And you know, uh, luckily, I've been able to completely delete all of that porn or anything like that out of my life. And I've got an amazing wife. I got an amazing marriage now because of that. And but it was something that just being 100% open, transparent, and honest with you, it was something I struggled with for a long time. I was a hypocrite. I was the guy that pretended to be a Christian, but was, hooking up with girls every weekend.
Yeah.
I was the guy that pretended to be a Christian, but, had a girlfriend at home and was still hooking up with girls every
Right.
weekend,
Yeah.
like, I was not a good person, like, in the whole sense of the thing, like, I wouldn't steal from you or rob from you or anything like that, or lie to you or anything like that. But, um, you know, I still had sin that I was dealing with in
Sure.
my life. And, uh, it took a lot to kind of like shake me and wake me up on what I wanted to be like. And I tell you one thing, having three beautiful daughters, it'll change you. Uh,
Yeah.
you look at women and how you treated women completely different. I think that's why God gave me three daughters. He's like, hey, you remember when you were younger, what you used to do? Now you've got to learn to do better, because you've got to protect three daughters. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, I owe so many people apologies. Like, goodness
I
gracious.
I feel I have four daughters, so I'm right there with you. I feel you for sure. And but what a great opportunity it is for you to worldwide, help spread your message and your faith, and it's really a blessing. And I think it's really great, and it's a great opportunity. And I think God's provided you, the longevity to be able to do that. So, and
Yeah,
obviously
man.
you work on yourself too. Like you said, you work out every day, your martial arts. I mean,
Well, you got to work on everything, right? You got to work on the mind, you got to work on the body, you got to work on, the soul. And for anybody that, what really changed me, like, I feel like I kind of have to tell this because it's pretty much my testimony. Like, I grew up Christian, but I was that hypocrite, right? But where the switch happened, it was I had went back to church. I hadn't been to church in a while because I was traveling a lot, and I made all these excuses not to go. And I got invited back to a church by the name of a guy named Chris Bradlin, and I got to go to Life Church, that's the main campus there. And when I did, the sermon was on tithing. So I'm such a hypocrite at this time that when I'm sitting there in church, I'm like, all right, God, I'm excited to hear from you. I want you to speak to me. This is going to be great. And then the guy gets up there and starts talking about tithing. And I was literally like in the crowd rolling my eyes, like, oh, like this is like one of the craziest big churches I've ever seen. All these people are driving really nice cars. Like, I don't want to hear how this church needs my money. And I don't think this church needs my money. And I could kind of feel like the spiritual, the Holy Spirit thumping me on the back of the head, like, hey, you kind of need to listen to this. This is for you. And I was like, I started listening. And then he said, where your treasures are, your heart will follow. And that just rang true to me because I was like, God just showed me where my treasures were. At the time, I was only focused on two things: building big lifted show trucks for SEMA every year, and riding to motorcycles to hook up with girls. That was it. Like, that was what my life consisted of. And he showed me that, like, plain as day, and how what I was doing was wrong. And I was like, whoa. And I could tell God was telling me, you want your heart to be with me, try putting your finances with me and see what happens. And uh and I know it says in the Bible, God's like the only spot in the Bible where God says, test me on this. But I could almost audibly hear God say, I need you to test me on this. And I was like, okay. And like by the time, he's done preaching, like I'm like kind of sobbing all over the place. And I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to do this. No matter what, anytime I take an increase, 10% off the top is going to you no matter what. Like, I'm not going to take my expenses out or anything like that. It's like whatever my increase is. If my show pays this much, 10% is yours up front. Let's see, I'm going to give it to you. And then that changed everything. That changed my whole life.
Wow.
Because now I'm putting my treasures where God is telling me to, and it wasn't always to church. Like, God, the Holy Spirit will tell you where to put it. It wasn't always to church. Like, there was times God'd be like, "Hey, I need you to give your tithe here. Don't worry about the tax credit or this or that. Don't get too technical with it. I need your money here right now."
Right.
And I would not give it to the church, and I would give it to where He would tell me. And every single time, God would show up in a way that is only explainable through miracles. But that's when my life changed. Like, everything changed for me. My heart changed, my mind changed, and because of that my life changed. And it was weird. Like, God started blessing me in ways that I can't even count, like I can't even fathom. Like, since then I've met my wife. I've got these beautiful children. We live in our dream home. It's not like, a mansion or anything, but we live in our
Right.
dream home on the most beautiful piece of property to me. And, home life is heaven to me. Like, I love being home. You can ask anybody that knows me. Like, I don't ever want to leave my house. Like, I love being
Right.
at home. And, God has helped me create, and make more dreams come true because of that. And then, honestly, I feel like He's protected me, more. I feel like He's opened up more doors for me. I feel like He's done, because everything in my life, this is what a lot of people don't understand, is like everything is His. Everything.
Right.
This is all His. I don't own anything. God allows me to use things here or there, but I don't own anything. Yeah, God owns everything. And when you start to, like, realize that, and we let go of the greediness, we let go of the stinginess that we humans have, man, it's amazing what God can do when you have your hands and your heart open. And
Yeah.
tithing changed my life, man. And
Wow.
that's what got me to stop being a hypocrite. And 100%, just pour my life into God. And, uh, you know, I would challenge anybody. Like, if you're on the fence about Christianity, you start paying tithe and listening to the Holy Spirit. And, if God's like, if you get this inclination to give someone money or donate to a charity or do this or that, do it and watch what happens. Like,
Yep.
do it and keep your
Yeah.
eyes open,
Yeah.
because you want to know if God's real. Like, he will prove himself quick and in a hurry. Like,
Yeah.
he's done it multiple times to me in ways that are just, mind blowing. Like, if I told you stories, you wouldn't even believe they're true,
Right.
because he's like paid me back instantly in some cases, like within the minute. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. That's amazing. What a great testament too. So for sure. And like you said, he protects you and allows you to keep doing what you're doing, and which is, leading by example, being out there. I mean, I don't want to beat that horse too much, but you're guiding a lot of being experienced in the freestyle world. You're guiding a lot of the new kids and giving them the opportunity to see, the benefits of your life and your lifestyle and your beliefs for sure. So that's a
I can only
huge
hope.
thing.
Yeah, I
Good.
can only hope, man, because the future of generations that are coming up, man,
Yeah.
they the way the world changes every single day, like, they need it. They need
Yeah.
God. They need that direction. And I can only hope that they listen and seek, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't want to change the subject, but I want to really quick. We're running up on time. Um, but I wanted to hit you up about the Guinness World Record.
Hmm.
So the
So,
setup, the
yeah.
result, the
Oh
whole bit.
man. So that was probably one of the craziest 3 weeks of my life. I got a phone call. Thank you to Shane Good at Fuel Clothing, man. He opened a door for me. This production company was looking for someone to break this world record. That Matt, the Kangaroo Kid, legend. This guy is amazing. He built and did some of the craziest jumps, that's ever been done. And, he kind of was like the evil Knievel of quads. And, anyway, he came up with this crazy idea that had this moving jump and jump over these cars. And this production company was looking for someone to break the record. And Shane threw my name in the hat and was like, hey, this is the guy you should use. And they hit me up. They're like, sign this NDA, blah, blah. We need to talk to you about something. So I signed it. They called me. They sent me the video, and they're like, would you be willing to do this? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, okay. Well, shoots and this on this date. I'm like, that's like 3.5 weeks from now. They're like, yeah. And I was like, they're like, we're still interviewing other guys and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, here's my deal. I said, if you choose me, I need to know by today. And they're like, huh? I was like, here's my deal. If you choose me, I need to know by today, and you better hope you choose me. And they're like, well, why is that? I was like, this is in 3.5 weeks. I have to design, build, paint, and finish a takeoff ramp. I have to line up vehicles. I've got to line up drivers. I've got to be able to test. I've got to be able to change my quad up between now and then. I said, this is short. I'm like, that's not a lot of time to build it. I got to build a trailer or buy a trailer, blah, 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 blah. I said, you better hope you choose me, but I need to know like today. And I got a phone. I called my wife. I was like, hey, here's the deal. They want me to try this world record. And I said, I told them I need to know with it today. I hung up with my wife. My phone rings. They call. They're like, okay, we're going to go with you. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to get started. So I literally called up my cousin Ronnie, and we started fabbing up a takeoff ramp onto my trailer I had, and um, the design of the ramp came out perfectly. You know, it was little bit, a little bit. I used Matt Kenga's, design he had in his video, but I just kind of exaggerated it a little bit bigger, and then I designed it to jump 5 cars. You know, and then we got the ramp built.
Moving,
Yeah,
moving
we got,
cars.
yeah, they were moving, but we
Yeah.
got the ramp built, and I was towing it behind my truck, and I parked it out. I took it out on this road out by Weatherford, and I just parked it, sitting still. I was like, all right, let's test the ramp out. First jump over the truck, just the truck. So I'm only jumping like 25, 30 feet to flat ground because there's no
Oh.
landing. There's no landing. You can't have a moving landing, right? So I jump at like 25, 30 feet, broke the quad. And I'm like, crap. So I ordered parts, fixed the quad, did it again, boom, broke the quad. And I'm like, all right, I'm out of time and I'm out of parts. Let's go to California. Off we go. We take some extra parts and stuff, and off to California we go. We get to California and we're on the airfield, and I was like, I want to test it over this truck again, and kind of get to feel for it, because at this point I've only gone off the ramp 2 times and it wasn't even moving. And I was like, I feel like we've got the quad in good shape. I was like, I'm gonna jump it again. So we had the truck sitting still right there, and I just jumped over the truck one time, broke the quad again. I'm
Oh
like,
my. Oh no.
this is not good. So luckily I had the part that it took to fix the quad, but now I'm completely out of parts, completely out of time. And I can't test it again. Like, it's gonna be all or nothing for the world record. Here we go.
Oh.
Yeah. You want to talk about nerve wracking? I'm pretty sure my wife chewed off all of her fingernails. And we did some testing, and then they were like, okay, the production company come over there. We had the whole airfield for about 2 or 3 days to ourselves to kind of like do some run tests. And at first I got my drivers practicing just pulling the ramp, and I'm like, okay, an emergency happens. Cars 1 and 3 go left, 2 and 4 go right. We're gonna make it where it's, if something happens, I crash in front of them, I don't get ran over. So I'm like,
Right.
it's like you guys are gonna split like the Shriners, and just
Yeah,
stop.
yeah.
And so we were practicing all of that, got everything dialed in. I had some really awesome drivers, that helped me out. Some really good friends, Scott Rain, Wade Roberts, uh, James Brooks. Um, oh, I'm completely brain farting. Oh, Patrick. And we get all that practice out, and then the production company comes over for filming. They're like, okay, we need you to hit the ramp right here. So as soon as the ramp crosses this line that's on the ground, that's when you need to jump it. Now, keep in mind, I've got to hit this thing 5th gear wide open, and that's moving. So I've got to time it where I'm 5th gear wide open, and this all crosses just perfectly. It took me four times of just test passes, and I got it down perfectly. And they're like, okay, well, we've got all of our cameras set up, and we're ready to go when you are. So just let us know. They're like, we're going to go ahead and film though. I said, well, I'm not going to waste your film. Let's do it. And they're like, okay, well, if something doesn't go right, we can do it again. And I was like, hey, no, we can't. No, we can't. They're like, no, well, if you like pull off. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not pulling off. I said, we're sending it. So we fold the tail down, so now it's dragging on the ground, and we're heading down to the end of the runway. And I'm following the ramp, and we're all going down there to get in line. And I'm riding behind the ramp, and the ramp's down, and I roll up the ramp, and I just roll back down. And he's only doing probably 5-mile-an-hour dragging this thing, and I'm just kind of just getting what it felt like to come onto it while it was moving. Now, when he's doing the world record jump, he's got to be doing 30 kilometers an hour. So it's like almost 20 mile an hour. And man, I remember they sent it. They gave us the radio, said go. He took off. and he goes, and it's about a 45-second head start that I give them. And I want to tell you, man, that 45 seconds was like the longest 45 seconds ever. I'm just
I
watching this
bet.
trailer drive away with 4 cars in front of it, and it's just driving and dragging that trailer, and I'm just looking at it going off, and I'm like, all right, I got to hit that thing 5th gear, wide open, as fast as I can go. I don't know how it's going to launch. I'm hoping it don't endo me. I'm hoping it don't, loop me. I don't know what it's going to do, but I'm just going to hit it. And,
Oh man.
I said my prayer, and man, it was like, as soon as it come time to go, I just started grabbing gears. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. And man, I went off of that thing, and as soon as I got onto the ramp, it was like I hit a NOS button or a turbo button or something, because I got on the ramp, and all of a sudden I was at the top part of my RPM, and all of a sudden it was like the bike grabbed another gear, because it was like, it just pulled really hard, and it kind of pulled me
Wow.
up the back, and when it did, it nosed up. So instantly I grab brake and climb up and level it out, and I end up going really, really high and really, really far. I
To
went exactly what I
flat.
designed. Yeah, I went exactly what I designed the ramp to do. Now we intended on having 5 cars, because I wanted to just crush the record where nobody was going to break the record again. But I had a contract issue with one of my drivers. We had a pretty crazy contract we had to sign, and so I had to pull one of my drivers off, and we lost a car. So we only did 4 cars, which was still enough to break the record. But man, flew over that 4th car, and I was still going. Like, I was still going past that 4th car, and I braced for impact, landed, boom! It blew this hand off, hit, and dude, it destroyed this quad. Bent the rear axle, bent the foot pegs, bent the handlebars, bent
Wow.
all 4 wheels had a perfect flat spot on it. Now, to hold the record, you have to maintain control for at least 3 seconds. And so I hit, and I'm like, 3 seconds. And I had it, and it was just shaking like crazy. I put my hand up. I was like, yes. Didn't realize that time, but ended up cracking my right wrist and pulled my shoulder out.
Oh.
And it was violent. It cost a lot of money to fix the quad, but we end up, breaking the record, and, getting to come home and celebrate, and that was it was pretty awesome. And it was on the Guinness World Records Unleashed TV show on True TV at that time, which was pretty cool. And so a lot of people got to see it. They still show reruns of it here and there. I get calls every once in a while, and someone's like, "Oh, dude, your world record's on TV," and that's pretty neat. But
Wow.
that I would say that video, the airplane video where jump over skip, and then the video of me jumping the house are probably my like 3 most famous videos. People are like, "Man, that's crazy. Are you the one that jumped your house, or are you the one that
Yeah, I forgot about
this?"
that.
Yeah, that was those are some fun videos. I'll have to get you some links so you can share them on here.
Yeah, we definitely will. For sure. Text them to me, and we'll get them up there. So, man, that's what a dude. What a blessed life. I mean, crazy stories,
Yeah.
unbelievable, and just a good guy all around.
Well, I really appreciate that, man.
Uh,
The stories in the life, man. It's definitely better than I deserved, but I'm very blessed, and it's all thanks to God,
yeah, for sure, for sure. The upcoming shows. I know we need to wrap up because I know you have a commitment really quickly. Um, what do you got coming up? Where
Man.
can people
So
see you?
some of the like more prominent ones that we're excited about: the Hammond, Louisiana Air Show, the North Shore Regional Air Show. It's going to be the first time ever we're taking the quad over the plane upside down, which is going to be that's a big one I got coming up.
And
We've
when
also
is
got
that?
another that is in October, I believe. I'll
Okay.
try and get you those dates. Man, I wish I'd known, because literally I'm talking to you on my phone, and my schedule's on that thing, so I can't really pull it up and see it. We've got that. We've got another air show in the I believe it's called the Quad City Air Show. We're going to be jumping over Skip. It'll be on the motorcycle. We've got uh, I'm going to be doing the rodeo in Elk City, Oklahoma, which is right next to my hometown of Weatherford. I'm pretty excited about that one because I get to
Yeah.
see a lot of old friends and family there.
Oh,
Because
your hometown crowd.
yeah, I moved
Yeah.
away from Weatherford, about 10 years ago, and so anytime I get to go jump close to that town, it's really really cool. Those are some of the exciting ones that I've got coming up that I'm personally excited about. But we're just now kind of filling up the summer schedule, so I'm really hoping that we get some more fun shows this year that like we got to do last year. I really love staying right here in the middle of the country as much as possible.
Right.
And, that's just where my home is, and I it's where I like to be. And plus, makes my drive home a lot shorter, and I get to be home faster. But we're working on some faith based shows, which we're excited about. I like to really do a lot of shows with Zero Gravity and Team Faith, and I'm really looking to do some of those shows that are going to be coming up. I think they're later on in the summer, and then now that I've got this, I have my own setup with my own sound system and everything like that, which we're we do a lot of little single churches, which I really love doing. Get to come out, share my testimony, ride, and we do question and answers with kids and stuff, which is always a good time. I love reaching out to youth groups. Anytime I can jump for a church and their youth groups, it's one of my favorite shows to do for sure.
Awesome.
Oh, one of the best ones coming up that I really enjoyed last year is the uh, birthplace of Route 66 in Springfield, Missouri. They do a really cool car show festival there, and we're going to be back there this year as well. Um, and then, man, just some more monster truck shows, and hopefully some more arena crosses too. It's been a long time since we've been in the arena crosses, and I'd like to see that one come back around. Um, but man, there's no telling. There's no telling where God's going to take me next.
Right. That's awesome, dude. That's busy, busy, busy.
Yeah,
Uh,
always.
super. Yeah, that's rad. That's so cool. The so social media. Where can
Yeah,
they find you on social media?
it's pretty easy. So I'm mainly an Instagram guy. It's at Cody Elkins, just first and last name. Same as on Twitter or on Facebook. I believe it's at Cody Elkins 570. I believe that's on Facebook and Snap. I don't do TikTok. I limit myself to 30 minutes on social media per day. So
It's
you
probably
know
really smart.
if I don't respond right away, that's the reason why I probably ran out. Like my phone just boots me off, and I'm like, oh, ran out of time today on that. So that's just one of the ways I try and keep my focus on where on the important things in life.
Yeah.
So but I do try and post some schedule stuff, some cool videos when I get them, things like that. As far as my sponsors goes, my sponsors know me. I'm better in person than I am on social media anyway.
Right.
I'm the guy that's always trying to show off the system in my truck or
Yeah.
my Indian motorcycle or whatever it is. So most of my sponsors, they don't really sponsor me for my social media side of things. They sponsor me for my face-to-face side of things, just because that's where I feel like I represent best anyway. But I think social media is a great tool, but I think it can be a huge distraction for some as well.
For sure. Absolutely. And speaking of sponsors, let's hit your sponsors while we're at it so we don't forget.
Man, 100%. Obviously, Kicker.
Right?
Kicker has been with me since day one of freestyle. Pretty much, I think it was my third show that I got to ride and meet someone from Kicker, and they're like, "Why are you from Oklahoma doing what you're doing and you're not riding for us?" I'm like, "I think that's a great question." So, um, old Herb Kane back in the day got me hooked up with Kicker back then, and it's been 23 years of riding with Kicker. I've had a system in almost every one of my trucks, and I'm staring right behind the camera here. I've got my PA system there. I've got a Bluetooth, my Bullfrogs right over there behind my bike, and I love their products. I think they're hands down one of the best companies in the world to be a part of, and um, you know, along with Fuel Clothing, man, that guy, same 23 years now with Fuel
Wow.
Clothing. And then one of my newer sponsors, Indian Motorcycles of Oklahoma City. Great family ran business over there. Those guys are just amazing. And I think they have one of the coolest shops, like Indian shops, because I've been all over the country and I go in Indian shops all the time.
Yeah.
Man, I think they just have one of the most iconic looking Indian motorcycle shops because it's downtown Oklahoma City right there, like in an old building. It screams Indian, like everything about
Right.
it. It's such a cool place and ran by such cool people. But that's where I bought my Sport Chief from. Toyo Tires, man, I've been with those guys for almost 20 years. They're always on all my trucks and trailers and everything else. I think those guys are amazing to work with. And also, Synergy Motorworks out of Tulsa. Ryan and those guys up there, just really, really good guys. Anytime I need something done to my bike or my quad, they're always on it, and they do great work, really fast turnaround times. And honestly, if you're in the market for any kind of a street bike, man, they get it. They can get a ton of stuff, and I mean, we're talking everything from scooters to sport bikes to choppers to you
Wow.
name it. They've got it all. And then Blue Groove Graphics, man. You can't have sponsors if you don't have a way to put them out there. And Blue Groove Graphics, man, they really hook up my bikes, the quad, and everything else. Like the new bike this year, all
Yeah.
white. They got it looking good. It's a little dirty from the show this weekend. I got in at 3:30 in the morning yesterday, and then I haven't even had a chance to rinse it off yet and clean it up from the weekend. But Blue Crew Graphics got it, everything looking really, really clean on there. I'm very happy with the way it turned out this year. They got, and then Yearwood Designs got my truck and trailer graphics all done out of Shawnee or Tecumseh. Those guys, Mark over there, he does an amazing job with all my trailers and trucks. Anytime I need the big graphics done like that,
Yeah.
where I can get up to Blue Groove to do something, Blue Groove handles all the bikes, and Mark, he handles all the trucks and trailers. But I couldn't do it without any of those sponsors, honestly.
Yeah.
Freestyle, it's a really cool sport, but it's not like a huge paying sport, and
Right.
it doesn't take a genius to be in it long, where you're like, wait, you're risking your life for what, $2,500, $3,000 every
Yeah.
weekend. Like, that doesn't seem, you get hurt once and you're in the hole for the whole year.
Yeah.
It's that just doesn't make sense. So it's not a big pain, it's not a big paying job, but you got to have a love for it, a passion for it, and you got to treat it like a business, and then live below your means, and you got to have good companies like these guys, if you want to have some of the other things to go with it, to, tires for your trucks that, we wear them out.
Oh yeah.
We're probably going to put, 60,000 miles on that truck this year. So,
Mhm.
we're going to go through tires, same with the graphics, the bikes, and all the stuff. And,
Yep.
you can't do it without sponsors.
No, for sure. And that's why we always want to make sure and get their names out there. The people and companies that help you do what you do, and you know, maintain all your visual presence also, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah. Like
looks
everybody,
and all of that.
yeah, everybody knows me for having the big lifted truck. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
pan my camera around here real quick. So right there on the wall behind me, you can see all the plaques. Those
Those
are
are,
from the magazine spreads, from some of
yep.
the SEMA trucks. And then here we've got the Indian and the
Nice.
quad and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, everybody has known me for years for having the big lifted trucks.
Yep.
So I feel like if I don't have one and I show up, everybody's like, "Are you even here?" So
Is he broken?
right, yeah. What's wrong?
Yeah,
What's wrong
yeah.
with you? Like, are you really getting old? And I've kind of tamed the truck down a little bit. The new ride, it's only lifted about 6 inches on 38s, and it's got a very good off-road look to it. But I feel like the truck and the trailer, it's a total package. And people, when they hire me for shows, they know that they're going to get a good, clean looking show, both rolling in, rolling out, setting up. It's going to look good all together.
Yeah, for sure. And on the Toyo Tire side, that best in the desert right there. And I believe the hat is right somewhere on that
Yep.
shelf. I did a job for Toyo Tires Japan where I was able to crew one of their celebrity Japanese drivers in a Polaris Razor for the Vegas to Reno desert race. So they
Awesome.
had two drivers, and I was did a bunch of the pit strategy and fueling the cars, which that's a whole nother deal. But yeah, they were very supportive, really cool, and extra shout out to Toyo Tires because I have a Vegas to Reno winter finishing pin from one of the drivers. The other one didn't finish, but it's extra pump there. So, and of
That's
course,
awesome.
kicker is kicker. Everybody that's listened to any of our 109 episodes now knows, I'm always grateful for our kicker family, and they're just great company. So,
Absolutely. And a
with that,
Christian-based company.
absolutely faith-based family for sure. Um, Special shout outs.
Man, honestly, just my family. One, my parents for making all the sacrifices that they made to help me develop the bike skills I needed to make. And because of those sacrifices, I've gotten to live, my dream. I think we owe a lot to our parents. I know some people didn't get the upbringing that I did, but I'm very blessed to have the parents that I've had. And, my wife for sticking by my crazy side through all of the nail biting situations I put her through. She's my best friend, and she's
Yeah.
amazing to still support me. Both on and off the bike. She's absolutely godsend. And then my kiddos, I love those kids. And Darren is now 20, and Chamber is 8, and Chevelle's 7. So
Wow,
they're all getting big, and my heart's full with that whole family.
that's awesome. That's yeah, dude. You have a great family. You have a great wife. Um, Man, I guess we need to wrap up. Whew, it's getting late your time. Cody, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for going overtime with us. Uh, Thank you for your example, your testimony. Really appreciate you being on here. God bless you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's been an honor.
I I can't wait till I get back out there and get to hang out again.
Yeah, same. I feel like we went from seeing each other almost every weekend to like hadn't seen each other in a long time. So it's time to get
Yeah.
back together.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a great night.
Yep. You too, guys. Thank you.
You bet. See ya.
See ya.
Man, oh man. What an episode. What a great guy. What an example. Just so grateful for our friendship and so grateful. I mean, you know, the amazing places that freestyle has taken Cody, right? It's just crazy,
Oh man, makes me want to hit the ramps right now.
right? Not even kidding. But I know we've had another long episode here. Great stories. Super grateful for Cody and Cole. And of course, Kicker Performance Audio. You can find them online, kicker.com, on Instagram at Kicker Audio, on Facebook, Kicker, and live on their TV show every other Tuesday night, 7:30 Central, on Facebook and their YouTube channel. There's Bomber Eyewear, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Badass Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear. You can find them online, bombereyewear.com, where you can check out over 40 styles of awesome frames, all different colors. Don't even know how many lens combinations. You can get them in safety lens. You can get them in polarized. You can get them in mirrored, polarized safety lens. And when you find those perfect glasses and get to the checkout at bombereyewear.com, enter the code MAddOG20, MAddOG 20. Let them know Mad Dog sent you. They'll take care of you. Of course, Assault UTV, Assault Industries, premium off-road accessories. Everything from tools to gear to UTV and ATV accessories. Check them out. Assault Industries. That is assaultind.com or on Instagram at AssaultUTV. The Premix Podcast. Check out everything Cole's up to at the Premix Podcast on Instagram. That's the at symbol ThePremixPodcast. Slide into his DMs, drop him a message, get him booked for announcing or photography needs at your desert race. That's at the Premix Podcast. Of course, Shutter and Whirl, handling all of our video, audio production, all the final production, making everything really nice for you to listen to, or as nice as possible, considering the sources. Find her on Instagram at Shutter and Whirl. Go to her bio. Click on the link in the bio, take you to her website for all your audio, video, still photography, production needs from pre-production to post-production, Shutter and Whirl. All your website, social media needs can be handled by Hey Geeks Marketing. You can find her online, heygeeks.com, or on Instagram at Hey Geeks Marketing for all your social media or website needs. Yeah. Hey Geeks, or find her on the webs, heygeeks.com. Man, oh man, I know we are on time. I am thankful for all of you folks sticking out. Cole, is there anything you have as a closing statement?
God bless America, and let's go racing.
Awesome. Do the speech.
Make sure to rate, review, subscribe on your favorite streaming platform.
Don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash it hard.
God bless our first responders. God bless our U.S. service people all around the world. God bless our veterans. God bless you, our fans. Mad Dog out.